Over the last two episodes, we've been looking at clutter quite differently. Not just as the stuff that's inside your home that needs to be tossed out or organized, but as something connected more holistically to your mind, your body, your emotions. And if you've been following along throughout this mini series, you might be noticing things a bit more now. Maybe certain spaces in your home are standing out to you. Maybe you're catching your thought patterns that you didn't even realize were there, or maybe you're just feeling this like quiet sense of, okay, something needs to shift and I'm here for it. And if you haven't caught parts one and two, be sure to do so as they really build on each other. And so now this is usually the point where the question comes in, where do I even start? Because once you start to see what's been playing out, it can feel like everything needs your attention all at once. And that's where most women get stuck again, right? Because it's not because they don't want to change, but it's because they feel completely overwhelmed by it and it feels like too much to take on. In addition to the home, you might have also started to notice the amount of mental clutter or physical clutter, as in body clutter. I talked about that in the last episode as it shows up as being tired, overwhelmed, even pain in the body. But today, I want to bring this back down to something really simple. You don't need to process everything at once. You don't need to declutter or redecorate your entire home. You don't need a full on home renovation. You just need a soft place to begin this work. So, we're going to start with the home itself. Why? Because it's the most visible. The home and the physical environment, it gives you something tangible to work with. But even here, I want to shift how you approach it. This isn't going room by room with a checklist. You can do that, but again, I want to avoid overwhelming you. This work really calls for you to just be paying attention to where your energy is being pulled. For example, if there are spaces in your home that you tend to avoid, have they been calling your attention? Are there surfaces like kitchen countertops where they're constantly collecting things and you resent that area? Maybe there are rooms in your home or corners or spaces that just feel heavy, stagnant, they feel unfinished. You always try to get to them but never do. Those are the places I want you to start. Not because it's the right place, but because it's already asking for your attention by coming into your awareness. And so instead of jumping straight into organizing or getting rid of things, remember that's action. We have to pause before the action, take a look, and just ask yourself, what is really going on here? Is it a buildup of things that you haven't had time to deal with? Are there decisions that need to be made as it relates to this space or the objects in it? Are the items that you're keeping, do they feel like they even belong anymore? Or do they even resonate with you any longer? Again, you don't have to have the answer. You're just starting to connect the dots. Now, one of the simplest ways to begin, again, without overwhelming yourself, is to clear a single surface. This is an easy exercise. This was a big theme in my book, Room for Home. Start with one surface: your kitchen counter, your bathroom vanity, clearing off your desk. Maybe it's your nightstand. When your surfaces are too full, your mind tends to feel the same way. And so when you have a clear surface staring back at you, you create a little bit of room. Remember, your home is a reflection. It's a mirror reflecting back to you. So if you create physical space at home, you create mental space as well. And when we have mental space, we have clarity. We can hear and process information without the overload. Now, this leads me into something else that I talk frequently about, and something I call clarity cleaning. I've done previous episodes on this topic. It's also in my book, Room for Home. It's taking something you're already doing, like cleaning, tidying up, resetting a space, and using it as a moment to check in with yourself. So instead of rushing through your clearing or your decluttering, just slow it down enough and notice what's coming up in the moment. What am I thinking about? What feels easy about this? Where do I feel resistant? What kind of thoughts are coming up? Do I feel something in my body? That awareness is where your real shift begins. And another thing I'll offer you is this, is to make decluttering smaller than you think it needs to be. We tend to believe that we need a full day, a full plan of execution. We need the right amount of energy to tackle it all. But most of the time, starting with just one small action is what builds our momentum. So starting small might look like just organizing a stack of old papers or, throwing out what's no longer needed there, clearing out one corner of a room, maybe clearing out one cabinet, just the pantry, not the whole kitchen. Clearing out the TV stand, not every single cabinet we have. Or maybe it's finally just moving things around or shifting the furniture, the decor that's been sitting in the same place for years. It doesn't have to be a full-on clean out. It just has to be a little more intentional. When we are intentional, we notice something that's interesting. It's not about the stuff or the space. All of that is neutral. Remember, we talked about that in part 1. It's about how you feel. When we start small and we create momentum, we start to feel a little more calm, a little more clear-headed, a little less reactive or resentful. And that's because your environment is no longer holding that kind of weight. And so this is where the real work begins, not in doing more or overwhelming ourselves with a to-do list, but starting small and noticing the difference. And then from there, you begin to make your decisions more easily. You start trusting yourself a little more. You start hearing your intuition a little bit more. You can move forward with your day without feeling like everything is piled up on top of you. And so this really is the goal of this series and the Connect with Your Clutter Masterclass. It's to guide you through this process in a way that feels supportive. Inside the masterclass, I walk you through how to understand what your clutter is connected to, how to approach it without overwhelming yourself, and how to start small, creating space in a way that feels sustainable. You'll also receive the companion guide, which contains an at-home exercise that goes along with your reflections. So you're not just taking action, you're also processing what's coming up as you go. So if you've been listening to this series and thinking, I'm ready to do something with this is your next step. You can sign up through the link in today's show notes, and I'll send everything you need to know about the masterclass directly to you. And just remember, you don't need to become a totally different person to have a different experience at home. You don't need to be more organized. You don't need to be more on top of it. You just need to make a little more space for yourself. There's no need to do more. There's no need to do it perfectly, just space. And that's enough. Thank you so much for following along this 3-part clutter series. If you missed any of the previous episodes on this topic, they are also linked in today's show notes, along with access to request the Connect with Your Clutter Masterclass. Have fun with this practice. Emotional work can be overwhelming, but it doesn't have to be. You always have a choice. Try leaning into this practice with a little bit of patience and maybe see it as a self-care practice. Until next time, my friends, so much love and gratitude.